Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. We will continue with our course Investment and Portfolio Management MGT 531. Today's lecture is lecture number 11. First of all, we will discuss the summary of the previous lecture. In the last lecture, we did the summary of the quantitative methods, that is the measurement, statistical measurement of different methods in order to measure the risk and return. And then we did the portfolio theory in the last lecture. As far as the portfolio theory is concerned, we did the Markowitz modern portfolio theory, that is what the Markowitz did as far as the portfolio investment and management is concerned. And we elaborated the concept of risk and expected returns of a portfolio and the measurements of risk and expected returns of the portfolio. And we have the similar reference as we discussed in the previous lectures, that is the study by the Christina 2010. The title of the study is Investment Analysis and Portfolio Management, and the students are required to have little bit previous knowledge and prior knowledge in the area of finance in order to undertake a good investment and to be a good manager, to select their portfolio and to make best choices as far as the portfolio is concerned and set of portfolio holding is concerned. What is today's lecture? The contents of today's lecture are the feasible set. What is the feasible set and what is the definition of feasible set? In other words, we can say that what type of set they can be called as feasible. If we have a number of sets in our portfolio, what of them are the feasible and what cannot be known as feasible, that is they are not feasible set of portfolio holdings. Then we will discuss the optimal choices, that is what are the optimal choices and what type of choices can be known as optimal choices as far as the portfolio holding is concerned and as far as the investment in the portfolio is concerned. Then we will draw the capital market line in respect of the optimum choices of portfolio holdings. Then we will do the efficient set of portfolios, what type of sets are known as efficient sets and what type of portfolios, in other words we can say they are known as efficient portfolios. Then we will do the capital asset pricing model, which is also known as CAMP model. That is what is the relationship between the capital asset and the prices, and it is indicated through a model which is, and the name of the model is CAMP model. First of all, we will discuss the portfolio, and as far as the portfolio is concerned, what is the feasible set of portfolio, what is the feasible type of boundaries in which we can have the best optimal choices in our portfolio set, in our portfolio holdings. Feasible set is basically opportunity set, and it tells us that how we can avail the opportunities which are available in the financial market as far as the investment in different instruments is concerned, as far as the investment in different items and tools is concerned, in order to keep them in our portfolio, in order to make them as a part of our portfolio. Therefore, we can say that feasible set is portfolios set which is an opportunity set from which the efficient set of portfolio can be identified. In other words, we can say that feasibility tells us that the optimum choice is made as far as the portfolio is concerned, as far as we want to have the purchases and we decide to make the purchases in the field of investment for our portfolio. Portfolio set indicates the opportunity set from which the efficient set of portfolio can be identified. And what type of sets are known as efficient sets? The sets which are likely to provide maximum benefit to the individual investor, which are likely to give the individual investor with the maximum output, and they can extract maximum benefit and profit out of their choices, out of their decisions about the purchases of different items in the portfolio. These sets are known as efficient sets, and this is the one aspect, this is the one important property and feature of having the efficient set of the portfolios. On the other hand, we can say that we have another type of important factor which is linked with the efficient set of the portfolio, which is known as the cost of investment or the price of investment of in the different types of items and different types of instruments that we decide to keep in our portfolio. And if we together and if we sum up these two types of factors which are associated with the efficient set of portfolio, we have least cost combination of the least cost combination combination of our portfolio, and we can call these sets as a feasible set, that they are feasible for the individual investor to undertake any investment for their portfolio holdings, and to make investments in order to keep different items in their portfolio, to make them as a part of their portfolio set or portfolio holdings. Therefore, we can say that efficiency and feasibility basically indicates that when the investor is likely to have minimum cost, is likely to incur minimum cost of purchasing anything, minimum cost of any type of investment, and they can extract maximum benefit out of this. Therefore, such types of sets are known as efficient set. And such type of investor, or in other words, we can say the manager who is likely to manage these investments and who is likely to manage these purchases, is known as efficient manager or efficient investor. Therefore, we can say that efficiency is basically on two sides. One is, it is for the actor of the choices, for the actor and player of the investment field, and on the other hand, efficiency is linked with what type of items they are going to choose, what type of instruments they are likely to purchase, and they decide to purchase. Therefore, efficiency in the decision making as far as investment is concerned tells us the efficiency in the choices of portfolios, and feasibility in the choices of portfolios. Therefore, we can say that whenever we have opportunity, and we have opportunity available with us in the financial market to make our purchases and to decide to make the purchases in our portfolios, these are known as these opportunities, and if we avail these opportunities and these give us the maximum benefit with the minimum cost, so such type of opportunities are known as feasible sets. Such type of opportunities tell us that we are efficient manager. They indicate the efficiency of the manager, they indicate the efficiency of the decision maker in the field of investment. When we decide as an investor to make the purchases, we decide to choose our efficient portfolio. Feasibility set represents all portfolios that could be performed, and we can say that we have a number of portfolios that we can keep, and number of sets of portfolio holdings that we can keep in our choices that we are confronting in the field of investment, in the area of investment in the financial market, and we can choose best among those available sets of portfolios, and we can keep the optimum choices with us. We can keep the efficient sets of portfolio with us as our future choices, as for future choices of investment particularly. So we can say that feasibility set represents all portfolios that could be performed from the number of securities and lie either within or boundary of the feasible set. So what is the point over here? The important and interesting point over here is that we have a number of sets, we have number of securities which we are facing in the financial market, that are available to us in the financial market, and we choose among those securities, and we keep our choices in our portfolio. By choosing among those securities, we can keep some securities as a part of our portfolio holdings, as a part of our portfolio sets, and we can say that these portfolio sets, these lie either within the boundary of the feasible set, or they lie on the boundaries of the feasible set. For example, we can say that what are the feasible boundaries and what are the feasible frontiers. For example, if we have expected returns on the vertical axis, and we have expected returns on vertical axis, and we have a risk on the horizontal axis, and we want to draw a feasible set, and the set which is giving us the maximum benefit and is also known as efficient set, we have a straight line, or the straight line indicate that this is the risk-free attitude of the individual investor. And here we have the frontier which is basically tangent to this line, or which is the plane line or the linear line, and touching the vertical axis at this point, let's say E. And we say that inverted U-shaped curve is the frontier, is the efficiency frontier, or efficient frontier, or efficient curve, which is tangent to this straight line and this linear line at some points. And we have under this efficiency frontier, we have a number of the choices and some choices are lying on the boundaries and are lying on the edge of this frontier. For example, these choices can be indicated by A and B, and another choice is the C, and we have different choices, but what type of choices they are important for the individual investor, and which should be made, and which the individual investor should decide to keep in their portfolio are A, B, C, which are on the edge of the efficient frontier or efficient curve, which are on the boundary of the efficient curve, and under the curve, efficient curve indicated by A, B, C. Different combinations are not much more efficient, and they should be avoided. Such choices should be avoided. In other words, in simple words, we can say that the combinations of the expected returns and risks which are lying under the efficient frontier, they should not be chosen by the investor. Rather, investor should prefer to make the choices as far as A, B and C is concerned. A, B, C जो choices हैं and combination of risk and return, the individual investor should is likely to, and he would be more than efficient if he is likely to choose these among these combinations which are A, B, C. And this straight line tells us that this is the capital market capital line. This line, straight line, is known as capital line, and we will continue our discussion later on with these important concepts. For example, which is the capital line and which is the efficiency frontier. Keeping our discussion with the feasible sets and the efficient sets, for example, we have three choices A, B and C, and efficient sets of portfolio are presented, and these choices A, B, C, they are indicating efficient sets of portfolio, they are indicating efficient choices of the portfolio, and that is, if we choose among these sets, we will be able to have our efficient set of portfolio holdings, or in other words, we can say feasible set of portfolio holdings. And these sets indicate that we are likely to have optimal choices. We are minimizing the cost of investment with the maximum possible benefit that we are going to extract out of these choices. So what are these optimal choices? Kin choices ko we can say as optimal. Optimal choices are basically, we consider the assumptions of non-satiation and risk covers as far as the optimal choices are concerned, and the assumptions of risk, non-satiation and assumption of the risk covers, we also discussed in the last class, and we keep the expected return along the vertical axis, and we keep the risk along the horizontal axis. By keeping these, we can have various combination of risk and return, which may be preferable to the individual investor to keep them in the portfolio of the individual. So as far as the optimal choices are concerned, we have two important assumptions. First assumption is known as non-satiation. What the non-satiation assumption is, it tells us that individual investor is likely to prefer the assets and likely to prefer the combinations and instruments and tools and choices and assets with the higher returns, which are giving higher returns. For example, if we have A, we have B and we have C, these are three important choices which individual is likely to have and can adopt, and individual is available to adopt, and individual will definitely prefer the combination, will prefer the choice which is having high return. For example, if the return of A is greater than return of B, he will be likely to choose RA rather than RB, and if return on the B is greater than return on the C, he will be likely to choose B rather than C, and so on. We can say that non-satiation assumption tells us that individual is likely to make the choices of the assets, is likely to make the choices of the sets which are going to give him and which are going to reward him to maximum extent, which are going to give him high returns as compared to those choices which are giving low returns. We can say this is the rational behavior of the investor, that the rationality of the individual decision maker tells us that he is going to make the choices which are appealing him, which are attractive to him as far as the monetary benefits are concerned, as far as the psychological benefits or psychological satisfaction is concerned. Second important assumption as far as the optimal choices are concerned is we are having risk aversion. That we can be investors who are risk averse, who avoid the risk and are not likely to bear with the risk, are not likely to have the choices which give him more risk, rather than individual will like to have the risk which is at minimum level and is giving the cost of minimum to the individual in terms of risk. Only those portfolios lying between points A and B on the boundary of feasible set will find the optimal choices. If we can say that if we draw the optimal choices, we can say this is the linear line which with us, or it is known as capital line. This line can be indicated as the capital line, which is linear line. Along vertical axis we have expected return, that is the rate of return that individual investor is expecting to have, is expecting to earn from the financial market. Along horizontal axis we can say that individual investor has risk, is facing with the risk, and this linear line shows various combinations of return and risk, and is indicating one-to-one relationship between the risk and return. At wherever point we are having, there is linear relationship between the risk and return, and we have, for example, a curve which is tangent to this line, and this is the inverted U-shaped curve, or we have 2 points A and B on this, so we can say he is likely to choose between A and B rather than the other choices. Or if we and we will find the optimal choices as far as the or if we, and all these choices are known as efficient also because they are tangent to the capital line, and we can say that or what the capital line is indicating. Capital line is basically, if we in reality if we think about the concept, we can say this indicate the level of the resources available to the investor and level of the funds available to the investor, and all the choices which are lying under the ABC are under this curve. For example, in this shaded area we can say all the choices which are lying in this shaded area, they are inefficient choices and can be indicated as inefficient choices. Or what are inefficient choices? Inefficient choices are those choices which are not optimal and which are not optimizing the behavior of the individual investor, because the concept of optimizing is very interesting and it is very appealing as far as we want to economize our economic situation and expenditures and benefit, and we want to be efficient managers. Optimization, the concept of optimization is very much important. It tells us that what we are likely to have should be within the boundaries of our resources, should be within the boundaries of our economic status and our funds available to us. For example, if we have this capital line, or this line tells us that the level of the capital, level of the resources that is available to us. For example, if we have the combination of our efficient frontier, which is known as the line which is known as efficient frontier line, and this is indicating the portfolio sets which are efficient for the individual, and if we choose this combination, for example A, but this combination A is telling us that this is the choice of the individual investor, that this combination or this portfolio set A is appealing the individual investor and is preferable to the individual investor as compared to all other sets, portfolio sets which are in the boundaries of and which are closer to this A. And another important feature is because this is preferable, because the individual investor is able to cope with the expenditures of the investment as far as this is concerned. And if we look to the right and left of other, and these are basically indicating that the line is lying above this, and the line touches, if it touches any point of the efficient frontier, so we can say that will be the point at which he is making the optimal choice and he is able to maximize his benefit with the minimum cost. Or in other words, we can say what he is likely to choose as far as his interest or preference is concerned in the financial market. He is able to finance that, and his expenditures in the investment and his choices of the investment and decision of investment, they are matching each other. So in other words, we can say, although in simple words, if we define the situation, we can say that all the other combinations, all the other portfolio sets which are lying under this curve, they are no more efficient, and they are not giving maximum benefit with the minimum cost to the individual investor. And continuing with the discussion feasible set, we say that if risk-free investment is introduced in the universe of the asset, the efficient frontier becomes the tangential line. So this line is called the capital market line, or this capital market line is also risk-free line, and we can say that the individual investor is basically indifferent to the rate of risk and return. He is indifferent to the level of return and the level of risk. The portfolio at the point at which it is tangent is called market portfolio. And here we can, if we draw the diagram clearly, we can say that expected returns, they are present along the vertical lines, and we indicate the level of risk along the horizontal line, and this line which is touching the vertical axis at this point is also the risk-free line. This risk-free line is known as also tangential line when it becomes tangent to the efficient frontier, and efficient frontier is basically inverted curve which can be indicated in this, and it shows various combinations of the risk and return. It basically tells us when the level of returns increases, the level of risk is increasing. If we look at different points, for example, if this is the point E and this is the point E1, and we have another point E2, all these combinations are indicating all these points are indicating the different combinations of expected returns and expected risk. Expected returns and expected risks, that is what type of sets and feasibility sets and the assets they are likely to have what type of combination of the return and risk for the individual. If we move upward from left to the right, we find that increase in the return is likely to increase the risk also. कि जब हमारा रेट ऑफ रिटर्न बढ़ता है, रेट ऑफ रिस्क जो है वो भी इंक्रीज करता है. इफ वी आर एट इवन वी हैव दिस मच, फॉर एग्जांपल वी हैव आर नॉट एंड वी हैव स्मॉल आर नॉट, इसको हमने रिस्क का है, स्मॉल आर नॉट एट ई नॉट. At E1 we can say we have two other levels of risk and return. Risk is indicated by small r1 at this point E1, and return is indicated by capital R1. If we further move at point E2, we can say at E2 we have risk equal to small r2 and return equal to capital R2. We can say that the combination has positive relationship. They have one-to-one correspondence with each other. But after a certain point, when it becomes tangent to the capital line or risk-free line, we can say it start declining. If it turns its direction, the curve turns its direction, and we say that further increase in the choices, further choices, they are likely to reduce the risk and increase they are likely to reduce the return and increase the risk. If we move at, for example, E5, the point E5, we say that level of risk has started increasing somewhat, and the level of return has started declining somewhat. And now we are moving from left to the right situation, and further increase in the investment are in such assets which are giving us the such assets which are giving us some different items in our portfolio. When we are including different items and instruments and in our portfolio, the expected return is maybe likely to reduce with the increase in the level of risk. That is why we say that the point at which capital market line is tangent to the is tangent to basically the combination we are choosing. Let's say at the point E, capital indicated by point capital E, and this is the maximum efficient point which is giving us maximum benefit to the individual, and this linear line is known as tangential line. It is known as capital market line. It is also known as risk-free investment. And why when we move from left to the right, and why the level of risk is increasing? Because within the limited resources we are likely to we are likely to purchase more and more assets, and we are likely to purchase more and more units of any same asset. That is why the level of risk associated is likely to increase, and the level of return is likely to reduce. Continuing with the same topic, efficiency of the sets, continuing with the discussion on the efficient sets and the feasible sets, we follow the Marquez theory that is about the modern portfolio theory, and Marquez introduced the efficient set portfolio, and his approach about the efficient set portfolio is that an individual investor should evaluate alternative portfolios inside feasible set, feasibility of the sets on the basis of their expected returns and standard deviations using the indifference curve approach. So we can say that as far as the discussion or the ideas of the Markowitz are concerned, we have a number of sets available and which are known as number of alternative portfolios, which are known as basically alternative portfolios, and according to Markowitz, the individual investor should decide that which portfolio he or she should choose and which not to choose, and how he can decide to choose. It depends upon the expected returns, that what is the expected return associated with any particular type of the portfolio set. This is the one important thing that the individual investor should take into consideration, that the individual investor should take into account as far as his portfolio choices are concerned, and his choices about the efficient portfolio sets are concerned. And second important point, on the basis of which the individual investor can make the choices, is about the risk. And we, according to Markowitz, and we did in the last classes, that risk can be measured with the help of standard deviation. Standard deviation is an important measure of the risk, and according to Markowitz, he used the very important approach which is known as indifference curve approach in order to elaborate the combinations of different combinations of expected returns and risk that can appeal the individual investor and that can guide the individual investor as far as the investment is concerned. Thus, the methods for calculating expected return of the expected rate of return and standard deviation of portfolio must be discussed. So we can say that he should consider the methods of measurement of the expected rate of return and standard deviation, and the idea of the concept of the Markowitz theory is that the rate of return of the assets can be measured with the help of expected returns, and the risk can be measured with the help of the standard deviation, and the expected rate of return of the portfolio can be calculated in some alternative ways. The Markowitz focus was on the end of the period wealth, that is the terminal value. His basically focus was that what is the value of the assets, what is the value of the portfolio held by any individual at the end of the investment. When any individual undertake investment for some time period, for example, we say for 1 month he undertake investment, for 2 months he undertake investment, for 6 months he undertake investment, and at the initial point of the investment, definitely he has the cost, he has incurred the cost of investment, and the assets have particular market value at the start of the investment, and we can indicate them that value at the point in time by T naught, and what is the end of the time period for investment can be indicated by T1. So we can say the T1 is basically the terminal value, and the T naught is the initial value, and T naught indicate the point at which investment is made or started, and T1 is the point at which investment is ended. So we can say we have the initial value of investment portfolio, and we can have the terminal value of the investment portfolio. This is the important concept or the idea of the Markowitz to measure the returns of the portfolio set or the value of the portfolio set using these expected end of period values for each security in the portfolio. So he is basically concerned about this. According to the Markowitz, if we have, let's say, different items and different instruments in our portfolio, these are known as A, B and C. For example, we have done this is our portfolio set and can be indicated by portfolio set 1, and we say that we have definitely the price of the asset A, we have price of the asset B, we have the price of asset C, and all three are kept in the portfolio of the individual, and the investment time at which and the point at which investment is undertaken is known as T naught, and at T naught but the value of the portfolio is known as initial value of the portfolio. The value of portfolio and the concept of the total value of portfolio is known as initial value of the portfolio, and that is undertaken at the point of the investment, at the point when the investment is started. And then we have the terminal value, which can be indicated by T1. This also indicates total value of the portfolio, total value of the assets in which are kept in the portfolio. So we can say how this can be measured. This basically the total value of the portfolio can be measured by the aggregate of the value of all assets which are present in the portfolio. So we can say that value of the A plus value of the asset B and plus value of asset C plus value of asset C, when we aggregate all these, so we can have the total value of the portfolio. Total value of portfolio can be indicated by sum of value I, where I is equal to from A to C. So this aggregate, we can say that the aggregate value of the portfolio can be calculated by aggregating the value of all the securities and all the items which are present in our portfolio. The expected end of period return for the whole portfolio can be calculated in this way. So we can say that we can, as the Markowitz gave us and introduced the idea of expected returns and risk combination, that is different expected returns point and different risk point, they can be combined and we can have different combinations. And he introduced the indifference approach in order to analyze the investors' different combinations of risk and return. Along vertical axis we can say that we have expected returns, along horizontal axis we have a risk level associated with different, and we can say these are the indifference curves. For example, this is IC naught, and we can say we have different combinations of returns and risk for this at point A, let's say, at point B, let's say we have another point C, and we can say that we have different combinations of the risk and return, and individual can make the choice, among these, whether individual is likely to choose A, is likely to choose B combination of the expected return and risk, is likely to choose the third combination, which is C combination of the expected return and risk. He will remain at the same indifference curve. And indifference curve, the level of indifference curve will not change. And what the indifference curve gives us, basically it gives us the total value of the combination, total value of the portfolio which is given to the individual. So we can say this is the total value of choices that individual can have from making among these choices. But still he remains on the same level, because we can say when he is at the combination A, we have certain level of the expected returns at A, we have certain level of expected risk at this combination. B is indicating the other combination of risk and return. C is indicating an other combination of risk and return. But we see that because we are having the upward sloping indifference curves, and we can see that the increase in the return is likely to have increase in the risk, and they remain on the same level of the indifference curve. And we can have the set of, and one individual can indicate a set of, or can face a number of indifference curves, or some can be above this initial and some other can be below this initial. This is known as indifference curve map. This diagram can indicate the indifference curve map that one individual investor is facing a number of the indifference curves in which we have indifference curve map. For example, starting from lower level of indifference curve towards higher level of indifference curve, and the lower indifference curve indicate different level of lower level of combination, and the higher indicates higher level of combination between the risk and return. These were the important points which were undertaken, or which were pointed out by the by the Markowitz modern portfolio theory as far as the choices of investment are concerned, as far as the individual decision to make the purchases of different items and different instruments in their portfolio is concerned. So continuing with the rate of return and risk of the portfolio really is the set of the securities. So we can say what is portfolio and how we can define portfolio. This is very important concept to be clear as far as the investment is concerned, that we should make our concepts clear, that what is the portfolio. So we can say that, as we discussed earlier, that portfolio is basically a set of the securities. It indicates a set of number of items, which can be included in any portfolio, number of instruments, number of tools which are included in any one set. So we can say, for example, if we have set 1, we have set 2, we have set 3. So each set comprises of number of assets, each set comprises of number of securities, number of financial certificates, and number of the items. An individual make the choices among them and can choose any of the portfolio depending upon the situation he is facing, depending upon the level of the funds available with him, depending upon his economic situation, his mental relaxation as far as the investment in these items is concerned, and also we can say the environment in which he is living, or the group of his companions and his guide, those who are giving him him guideline in order to analyze the situation in prevailing in the financial market. So we can say that expected rate of return of a portfolio should depend on the expected rate of return of each security included in the portfolio. So we can say that each item in the portfolio is important as far as the investment is concerned. As far as the choice of the individual is concerned, each item is having its own significance. Let's say if we say we have set 1 of the portfolio, we have set 2 of the portfolio, we have set 3 of the portfolio. In set 1 we have A, we have B item, we have C item. In set 2 we have A1, we have B1, we have C1, and in 3 we have A2, B2 and C2, and each and every asset, each and every security or certificate which is present, which is the part of the portfolio, is important for the investor to understand the situation linked with this with this item. He or she should know that what is the cost of investment with this, and what is the price or expected price and return associated with A, B and C different items in the portfolio, and what is the level of the volatility which is expected, that how much fluctuations are likely to occur, and how much positive type of fluctuations they are likely to appear with the value of these items, and how much the negative fluctuations or volatility is likely to appear with the value of these items which we are going to choose in any particular asset. So this indicate or this make the situation, and this analysis make the situation clear to us as far as the returns of these assets and items are concerned, and as far as the risk associated is concerned. This analysis can make the situation clear to the individual investor, that what type of portfolio set he should choose and what type of portfolio set he should not choose. So he can clarify his preferences among a number of the sets of portfolio. So we can say that portfolio is really set of securities. The expected rate of return of a portfolio should depend upon expected rate of return of each security, every certificate and each item included in the portfolio, and which is the part of the portfolio. So we can say that expected rate of return on the portfolio. This alternative method for calculating the expected rate of return on the portfolio, it can be indicated by ERP. So we can say ERP is an important concept, is an important notation. We can call it as E of R in RP, E of RP. This tells us expected rate of return of the portfolio. That what is the expected rate of return on the portfolio, and this is equal to, as given in this our equation, we can say that the one type of measurement of the rate of return on the portfolio is known as expected rate of return. And the alternative for calculating the expected, what can be the alternative method to calculate for the expected rate of return on portfolio is the weighted average of portfolio. So we can say, on one hand, we can take the expected value of the, or in other words, which is known as the average value, that we can measure the rate of return by the average value, by measuring the average value. And second is the weighted average. So we can say weighted average of returns, expected returns, is another way to measure the rate of return. So this basically tells us that we assign certain weights to all returns, are the returns associated with each and every security, with each and every item included in our portfolio. If we look at the this equation, we can see that the left hand side term on the equality is ERP, which is basically the expected rate of return on the portfolio. And how this can be formulated, how we can find and calculate the expected rate of return of the portfolio, this is basically the aggregate. This gives us the aggregate rate of return. And aggregate rate of return is what? Aggregate rate of return is basically the rate of return which we can calculate by the horizontal summation of the expected rate of return of all securities, of all items, of all tools, of all entities, of all instruments which are present in our portfolio. So on the right hand side, if we look at the right hand side term of the equation, equality, we can see we have sum of Wi into Ei of R. And what this tells us? This tells us that we have weighted average of all of the expected value of the returns of all items which are present, and I can indicate a number of n, basically n, which we are having, a number of securities which are present in our portfolio. E1 of R plus E1 of R is the first term which is included on the right hand side of the equation, and plus W2 into E2 of R, plus so on, plus Wn into En of Rn. And E2 of Rn basically tells us the expected value of return of the second security which is present. This tells us the second security which is present in our portfolio, and En indicates the expected returns of the nth security which is present. Expected return of nth security which is present in our portfolio, and we have the summation of all these securities present in our portfolio which are the part of our portfolio, and we can calculate the aggregate expected rate of return of all the items present in our portfolio on the whole. And Wi basically indicates the proportion of the portfolio initial value invested in security I. That is, what is the proportion of the initial value invested in any ith security, and Ei of R is the expected rate of return of the security I, and security I is any particular security, and EIR is the expected rate of return of that particular security I. So what is the N? How we can define N? N is basically the number of securities in the portfolio. These are total number of securities in the portfolio. So we can say that I is equal to 1 to N, and I1 basically indicates the investment on the first stock and first security, or first security in the portfolio, and I2 is second security in portfolio, and I3 is third security in our portfolio. And we have we have up to nth this situation. And we can therefore say that in aggregate I is equal to 1 to n, when we have the summation of all these and multiply them, all returns of all the securities by their initial value invested in them, or initial fund invested in them at the time of the start of the investment. We can say we can calculate the aggregate expected rate of return from any particular portfolio. And continuing with this topic, we can say, because portfolio expected return is weighted average of the expected return of its security, and this equation is known as that. This tells us that we have the another measure of the expected returns of the securities which is known as weighted measure. So we have the basically two measures. We have the average or simple or expected mean value of the rate of returns of any particular security, and then we have the weighted average of weighted mean value of the expected return of the security. The contribution of each security to the portfolio expected rate of return depends upon, so what is the contribution of each security and each item which is present in our portfolio on the to the total expected value of the and expected rate of return of the portfolio. First is its expected rate of return. We can say that contribution depends upon contribution of every share of every security present in portfolio. Expected rate of return depends upon first its expected return. That is, what is the expected return of any portfolio, and second is the proportion share from the initial portfolio market value, that is the weight. Okay, what was the weight given to the, that particular item, that particular security in the portfolio at the time of the investment, and this basically tells us this indicates the initial time of investment, okay, when we started the investment and open time of investment. We can say that weight basically tells us the share of the portfolio share of the portfolio for particular investment and for investment in any particular stock or the security or the asset. So how we can conclude this discussion as far as the expected returns and as far as the risk and as far as the weighted average of the expected returns of portfolio is concerned. So conclusion is that investor who simply wants the highest possible expected rate of return must keep only one security in his portfolio which is highest. What can be the possible recommendation or policy point? We can say that the policy point for any investor is that if he is risk averse and if we want to avoid risk, as a person who want to avoid risk, he or she should purchase by only one item in his portfolio. So we can say that the portfolio of the risk averse person how can be formulated. हम रिस्क अवर्स पर्सन का पोर्टफोलियो जो है वो किस तरह से बना सकते हैं. वी कैन से पोर्टफोलियो ऑफ द रिस्क अवर्स पर्सन कैन बी फंक्शन ऑफ वन सिक्योरिटी, इट कैन बी फंक्शन ऑफ ओनली वन आइटम, कि एक आइटम जो होता है उसमें सिर्फ इंक्लूड हो, और जब एक आइटम इंक्लूड होगा इंडिविजुअल इन्वेस्टर विल बी एबल टू नो द एक्सपेक्टेड रेट ऑफ रिटर्न ऑफ दैट particular asset and will be able to learn about the risk level associated with the investment of that particular asset, and the individual investor will be able to analyze the trend that particular asset is facing in the market, and as far as the market value of that asset is concerned, the investor can observe the trend which that asset is facing, or and similarly the trend for the risk can be clear and can be observed for that particular asset. And since we have only one asset in our portfolio, so the rate of return and the risk will not be affected by the rate of return of other items and other assets present in our portfolio and the level of risk of the other items present in our portfolio. So therefore we can say for risk averse person, and the person who wants to have highest possible rate of return for his particular asset, he should choose only one asset in his portfolio, so that he can make his portfolio capable to give him maximum possible benefit. So this is the important situation that we can do as far as this is concerned, this investment or choice is concerned. Individual investor therefore have, if he or she is capable to do and is likely to make the other purchases, is likely to invest in other areas and in other assets, it will be difficult for him to make the investment isolate from the influence of the other assets and from the influence of the rate of return of the other assets, because if he has she has more than one assets in his portfolio, definitely expected rate of return of each asset may be influenced by the rate of return of the other assets, or the behavior of the one asset in his portfolio may be influenced by the behavior of the other assets present and risk, similarly risk of the other assets. So we can say that if he has only one set portfolio जिसमें सिर्फ एक सेट है एंड एक आइटम है तो उसका जो पोर्टफोलियो है रिस्क अवर्स पर्सन का, और he has analyzed carefully the behavior of this particular asset A and the expected returns of this particular asset A, and similarly the risk associated with particular asset A. He has observed and analyzed the past trend about the behavior of this asset A, and he can, on the basis of this past trend, the individual is likely to forecast the future behavior and is likely to predict the future observations for the expected return and risk for this particular asset, and we can say he will be able to satisfy himself as far as his investment is concerned. He will be psychologically relaxed, he will be mentally relaxed, and we can say in such case we can say this is the optimal choice which he is making, or we can say this is the optimal or the efficient frontier which he is choosing, or efficient combination which he is choosing on the efficient frontier with the minimum cost possible. So continuing with the topic, we can say the rate of return and the risk of the portfolio. Why the majority of investors do not do so? Important question is that if as an investor and as a profit maximizer person and as a profit optimizing investor, if we suggest that and as a policy point that individual investor should keep only one asset in his portfolio which is likely to give him, which is likely to reward him with the maximum benefit and with the maximum returns, and he can extract maximum profit with the minimum cost, then what is the reason that a number of investors, because majority of the and a large number of investors, they are interacting, they are dealing, they are investing in the financial market, why they are not keeping only one asset in their, only one item in their portfolio? Why they are not keeping only one asset in portfolio, and why they are keeping more than one, and they like to keep more than one asset in portfolio? What is the reason behind? And definitely they are confronting with different securities in portfolio, and they know, they have the information about the plus and minus of these securities, and they know the positive behavior and of this and positive aspects of the security and negative aspects of the security, also as this security as well as the negative impact of all other securities which are functioning and being traded in the market. So basically they try what is the reason behind, what is the logic behind, because as efficient investor, and they want to be definitely efficient manager, and they want to be efficient investor, and they want to diversify their portfolio. They want to have a number of assets in their portfolio, they want to have a variety of assets in their portfolio. That is why they would like to have more than one assets in their portfolio rather than one asset. And when they have more than one asset, they basically they can analyze the behavior, they can analyze the situation confronted by these assets. So we can say they can analyze the past behavior as far as the market value is concerned, and they can analyze the behavior as far as the cost is concerned. So therefore, and in this way they would be like, definitely when they expand their choices, when they make more choices, and when they analyze the situation in a broader context, they try to make their understanding much more clear about the situation prevailing in the financial market. Definitely they will be able to move to the higher prospects, they will be able to improve their investment, and they will be able to improve the standards of living with the help of these investments, and with the help of doing the struggle and hard work in the financial market. That is the reason if they invest only in one asset, definitely they will have to wait for maybe for a reasonable time period, some long time period, until this specific item which he has chosen in his portfolio, or he has kept in his portfolio, he will wait for a reasonable time for the return of this particular asset to increase and to be reasonably high, so that he can benefit from this investment. Rather, if he is diversifying more than one his portfolio and keeping his investment in more than one securities and keeping his securities number of securities in his portfolio, definitely he is diversifying and he is having the variety, and he is following the statement that he is not likely to keep all the eggs in one basket, and is diversifying his investment, and therefore we can say definitely he will be capable to earn much more in the future time period, and this will lead him to have minimum cost and minimum risk and with the maximum possible benefit. That's it with the today's lecture, and now I will summarize the today's lecture. Starting with the Markowitz modern portfolio theory, we discussed the different aspects of the securities and investment in the securities and the rate of returns, and the measures of rate of returns and risk. And we did that we have the expected rate of returns as a good measure of the returns of the securities, and this can be measured with the help of the standard deviations. And then we discussed the weighted average of the expected returns and different components of securities which we can have as a part of our portfolio holdings, and the positive aspects of the different securities of portfolio holdings as well as the negative aspects of the different securities which we are going to keep in our portfolio holdings. We discussed the efficient frontier, we discussed the efficient and feasible sets, and what are the optimal choices as far as the investment is concerned. And we discussed that why an individual is likely and would prefer to keep one asset in his portfolio or one security in his portfolio, and why the individual investor would not like to keep one asset or one security in his portfolio. In other words, we can say why an individual investor is likely to diversify his portfolio holdings and portfolio set. Therefore, the reason behind this is that he would like to have more than one securities, more than one items in his portfolio, so that if he is likely to have the risk associated with one of the assets and one of the security, he may be likely to earn much more from the investment in the some other securities. And all this and choices and the purchases and decision of the investor to purchase different securities and items in his portfolio depends upon definitely the observations of past trends of the behavior of these securities, that what they have been doing, what the behavior and what line these portfolios and the rate of returns and risk of the portfolios have been following in the past, and what is the current situation. And definitely the investor will be able to predict the future rate of returns and the expected rate of returns as far as the securities return are concerned and risk are concerned for the future time period. So therefore we can say that they try to basically objective of the optimizer of the portfolio holder is to diversify their portfolio, and their aim is to reduce the investment portfolio risk. That is, they want to minimize the level of risk, they want to maximize the level of benefit. That is the end of the lecture number 11th. We will inshallah continue with the similar topic in the next lecture, and I think and I hope that you will be able to understand the different concepts in the light of this discussion, and with the help of all these slides. And see you next time in next class inshallah. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.